Ever since they've paired, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis have been a relatively well-liked and popular couple. Both young stars, good-looking, and they encapsulate a lot of nostalgia for people who grew up watching them or are either familiar with their work. I don't think anyone could predict their most recent scandal, which has been quite explosive. They wrote a letter in support of fellow co-star Danny Masterson, who was convicted of raping two women, and Danny was ultimately sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. Danny has had an extensive amount of allegations against him concerning violence against women, with allegations of him also using the Church of Scientology to harass his victims. Ashton and Mila decided to write a letter in his favor. After the guilty verdict, the judge in the case received over 50 letters asking for leniency. Ashton said in his that Danny was a role model, while Mila spoke in her letter about the genuine care he has for others and how he's been a tremendously positive influence on her. I wholeheartedly vouch for Danny Masterson's exceptional character and the tremendous positive influence he has had on me and the people around him, Mila said. His dedication to leading a drug-free life and the genuine care he extends to others make him an outstanding role model and friend. Meanwhile, Ashton also said he did not believe Danny is an ongoing harm to society, and asked that he receive a lesser sentence because having his daughter raised without a present father would be an injustice in and of itself. While I'm aware that the judgment has been cast as guilty on 2 counts of rape by force, and the victims have a great desire for justice, I hope that my testament to his character is taken into consideration in sentencing, he wrote. Which is disappointing to say the least, especially due to the roles Ashton and Mila have taken on. But we'll get to that a little later. Just because you have a positive experience with someone does not mean that they aren't harmful to others. In this case, especially other women who might not be in the same positions of power or extremely famous. People were also shocked that Ashton and Mila would stick their necks out for someone like this in general, especially because they have no actual relation, which wouldn't make it right either way, but I guess it's more understandable if there's actually a genetic relation or something of that nature. But he's just a friend and a past co-star. And then there's the part of the letter where it's like having his daughter raised without a present father would be an injustice in and of itself. And it's like, yeah, having women robbed of their livelihood and living a life of trauma is also an injustice, one that Danny has to pay for. And also the part of the letter where he's referred to as a role model. It's like, are you serious? A rapist is a role model somehow? Now what really took everything over the edge is Ashton and Mila's response and apology, which seemed very PR and just seemed like dodging the backlash.
We are aware of the pain that has been caused by the character letters that we wrote on behalf of Danny Masterson.
We support victims. We have done this historically through our work and will continue to do so in the future.
A couple months ago, Danny's family reached out to us and they asked us to write character letters to represent the person that we knew for 25 years so that the judge could take that into full consideration relative to the sentencing.
The letters were not written to question the legitimacy of the judicial system or the validity of the jury's ruling.
They were intended for the judge to read. And not to undermine the testimony of the victims or re-traumatize them in any way. We would never want to do that. And we're sorry if that has taken place.
Our heart goes out to every single person who's ever been a victim of sexual assault, sexual abuse, or rape.
They also seemed very agitated in the video. It certainly felt insincere, and they also hinted that they didn't necessarily expect the letters to go public and only wanted the judge to read them. But yeah, their apology video only made it much worse. What makes their stance even more bizarre is that they have both been spokespeople for anti-abuse, especially sexual abuse and human trafficking. They both recently stepped down as chairmen of an organization that helped combat sexual exploitation as a result of the letters and the backlash. After my wife and I spent several days of listening, personal reflection, learning, in conversations with survivors and the employees and leadership of Thorn, I've determined the responsible thing for me to do is resign as chairman of the board effectively immediately, Kutcher said in a statement. Now, the letters they wrote aren't uncommon during cases, but if Ashton and Mila had any intention of keeping their image intact, or more importantly, sticking by what they have stood for publicly, then they should have opted out. What a way to go down. I know some people are up in arms about supposed cancel culture surrounding this backlash. People always are when celebrities get criticized for doing shitty things. It doesn't mean you want to cancel them. It doesn't mean their career is going to be over tomorrow. It just means they're doing something shitty and people are going to respond to it. Simple as that. Now, I'm not exactly sure how this will affect Ashton and Mila, but I do think they have irreversibly damaged their image and all that they stood for and the activism they've pushed for such a long time during their careers. Also, imagine being one of the victims and seeing such powerful, famous, and influential people standing behind this man and protecting his character. It's just awful all around, but justice and peace to the victims.